Hi guys, it's me, Miss Mandy, and I'm here with another not so live chat. So yeah, another one of those where it's pre-recorded because, I should have led with this. I forgot to tell you why it's pre-recorded and why I'm the one here instead of the fabulous Mr. Nick, why you're seeing my mug on your screen instead of the really awesome Nick. I guess I should tell you, I should have probably started at the beginning and led with this super huge, exciting, fantastic, awesome, amazing news, but I didn't. I'm waiting till now, and you're like, get on with it, Mandy. Let's go. Let's hear it. Let's hear what the super awesome, exciting news that you should have led with, but you didn't lead with, and now you just keep talking. I guess I hear ya. Yeah, I can probably tell you what it is. Mr. Nick and his wife had their baby last week, so he has been out of the library for a couple weeks with his wife, spending some wonderful family time with, his new little baby boy. It's very exciting. We are all so happy for him and happy for that baby. What a lucky baby. Can you imagine a luckier baby to have Mr. Nick for a dad? He's going to be such a fun, awesome, cool dad, and I can't wait to watch him become a dad and see his little boy as he grows up. It's going to be really fun. So if you're out and about and you see Nick, or if you're in the library, because he will be back next week, and you see Nick, feel free to say, hey, congratulations, heard you had a baby, Miss Mandy spilled the beans, and just send him your best wishes. Even on the bottom of this YouTube video in the comments, Nick and I'll check them and I can show him if I see any. Feel free to say, congratulations, Nick, we're so happy for you. And it's really exciting. We're all very happy for him. And so it's pretty fun. I'm excited to be able to tell you guys that Nick had his baby, and his wife had the baby. Yeah, Nick and his wife had their baby. All right, so back to the chat. So tonight's another one of those pre-recorded, like I like to call them, the not-so-live chats. Instead of a live chat, it's a not-so-live chat. And I was thinking about it, it's like, hey, it's like I'm coming to you from the past. I'm this voice of wisdom speaking through the years and the ages and the, 2 hours from 2.5 hours from when it normally is supposed to be. Yeah, speaking through the minutes. Yeah, and you guys are in the future, so in a way it's like time travel, kind of. I don't know. It's a little bit, I don't know, Mandy, you're weird. I know I'm weird, or dare I say, peculiar? Yeah, because today we are talking about Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which is probably where I should have wound up as a kid. I was a pretty weird kid, but aren't all the best people? I think the best people are the weird ones, the weird kids and the people who stay a little bit kooky as they grow up. Yeah, that's really vain to say, Mandy. All the best people are like the kooky ones who stay kooky as they grow up and then point at yourself. Yeah, I'm proud of being kooky. It's more fun that way. All right, so I thought we would talk just a little bit of background today about the author. And so the author of this book is Ransom Riggs. And so Ransom Riggs. And I have to tell you, when I first learned that I would be leading the chat tonight, and I was thinking about it, I was like, one thing I have to do for that chat is look up Ransom Riggs' real name, the real name of Ransom Riggs, because to me, that has to be a pseudonym, right? Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. Doesn't that sound like a really great nom de plume, like a really great pseudonym, like a made-up name that authors use? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Ransom Riggs is totally a pseudonym. And then I found his website, and I was looking, and I'm like, scrolling, like, what's your real name, dude? How did you come up with Ransom Riggs? And then I finally had to Google, what is Ransom Riggs' real name? And it turns out Ransom Riggs' real name is Ransom Riggs. He's just one of those people who was given this super awesome name. And as somebody who's named Mandy with an I, and was named after a Barry Manilow song, none of you will know who Barry Manilow is. Ask your parents or ask your grandparents who Barry Manilow is. So I was named after kind of a really beautiful song by this old singer, and so it always impresses me when people have these very strong, cool names. So Ransom Riggs, real name. But I had a question for you. That got me thinking about a question for you guys. If you could have a pseudonym, if you were going to be, well, first of all, if you were going to be a famous author, would you have a pseudonym? And my answer is no. I want everybody to know that, if what I wrote was absolutely pure genius, then I want everybody to know I wrote it. If it's like not that great, then sure, yeah, slap a pseudonym on it. But I'm one of those people, I probably wouldn't have a pseudonym, but I'm curious to hear what you guys, would you have a pseudonym as an author, and why? Why would you choose a pseudonym? Would you like the freedom? Or, some authors even have like 5 different pseudonyms. People think they're all different authors, but it's really the same person writing under different names, and they're writing in different genres. Like they might be writing in sci-fi under one name and horror under another name, and it's really cool. And they get to, it's almost like having different personalities or different identities. So that's an option too. You could have more than one. So would you have a pseudonym? How many would you have? And would you have a different pseudonym for each kind of genre that you were writing in? And what would your pseudonym or pseudonyms be? So that's my first question for you. A little background on the author of Miss Peregrine. So Ransom Riggs, a little background on him. He was born in 1979, and he was born in Maryland, so born back east. And I thought this was really cool. He attended a school for the gifted. It says here it was Pineview School for the Gifted. But he also grew up in Florida. And then he studied at the University of Southern California. But growing up in Florida got me thinking, because that kind of northern part of Florida, the Florida Panhandle, is actually considered part of the South. That part of Florida that kind of touches Georgia and Alabama and Louisiana, it has kind of more of a southern culture. And it's not what you think of kind of like with southern Florida, so like Miami, and it's a little bit different up in the Panhandle. And so it started me thinking, because he grew up in Florida, and even like all of Florida is still, it has that southern culture and that southern history, and it started me thinking about Southern Gothic, which is a style of writing. And it started me thinking that maybe this book could have some aspects of Southern Gothic literature. And so I thought I'd talk to you guys a little bit about Southern Gothic literature and what it, that kind of the characteristics of it. So Southern Gothic literature, usually it's set in the South, so down south, usually Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and then sometimes Florida as well. So it's set down south, and it usually has stuff that's grotesque and macabre, and there's often a feeling of decay going on. It deals with social issues. There's kind of some aspects of irony in it. And there's always outsiders, or almost always outsiders. And the usually when you're reading Southern Gothic literature, there's a lot about outsiders in it. And sometimes the outsiders are the heroes and heroines of the book. So if we think of Miss Peregrine, you kind of think Jacob, obviously from the beginning, is an outsider coming in, but the children themselves are outsiders. That's why they're living in the place they're living, because they're outsiders in the mainstream world. So yeah, I found this really great definition of, and what's it from? It's from this website. I've got to give proper attribution. That's really always important. So it's from this website called Shmoop, and I just really loved this. So it's from a website called Shmoop, and I don't think there's an author listed on here. Giving proper attribution is really important, because if you wrote something, would you want somebody to pretend it was your words? If they were your words, if you wrote something, would you want somebody else to pretend that they had written it? No, we always want to give proper attribution. So this is from a website, a very serious website called Shmoop. That's awesome, Shmoop. Maybe that would be a good like pseudonym, last name or first name, like Shmoop. I love it. Shmoop. Stop saying schmoop, Mandy. Okay, so this great quote from it. All right, if you're reading Southern Gothic literature, chances are pretty good you're reading about outsiders. Many, if not most, of the heroes and heroines of these works are people who are outside the norm in some way, sometimes physically, sometimes mentally, and sometimes in terms of race or class. And so these outcasts, these outsiders, are the characters who often drive the plot forward. And and it says here, I thought this was really great. One reason Southern Gothic authors like to write about outsider characters is that outsiders reflect in a different way the identity of the South. So you have, and then that's why you also see like all of the decay, because after the Civil War, things drastically changed in the South. They lost the Civil War. They had to rework their society. And so it emerged from these writers who grew up in that, and so they were seeing kind of the changing and resistance to change that caused a lot of violence. And so they took all of these aspects and they incorporated it into the literature. So yeah, there's some things. There's outsiders, decay, social issues, violence. And so I thought as we read through this book, it might be kind of interesting. Now, this is just my interpretation. The author might say, like, lady, no, this is not a Southern Gothic novel. But it was just what I started thinking about, seeing where the author grew up and knowing the plot and kind of reading through it. I started thinking, and I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know. I could totally change my opinion when I'm done. That's the great thing about literature, is maybe you read it one time and you have this analysis of it, these beliefs of it, and then you read it again in a different time in your life, and it's a completely different book. They always say that you never look at the same river twice because the water's constantly flowing. I think you never read the same book twice, even when it has the same cover and the same words in the same order. You're not ever going to read that same book twice because we're constantly learning and growing and changing. So maybe by the time I finish this book or reread it, I might not think it's Southern Gothic, but it was something to think about. So if you see those elements in it as you read through, then let me know. Do you see decay in it? Do you see things that are grotesque or macabre? Do you see outsiders in it? And or do you think it's a completely different style of novel and you see other things in it? I'd love to hear all of this. All right, so back to the author, back to Ransom Riggs. He made short films for the internet, and he was a blogger on a website called Mental Floss, and that led him to writing a book called The Sherlock Holmes Handbook, which I had no idea he wrote that. And so when the movie Sherlock Holmes, so not the TV show or called Sherlock, and not the TV show called Elementary, but the movie Sherlock Holmes came out in 2009, he wrote The Sherlock Holmes Handbook, which was released as kind of a tie-in companion to that movie. Then he wrote Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and he had collected a lot of photographs, these kind of curious, peculiar, weird photographs, and he thought about using them in a picture book, and and then he kind of used that to put together a narrative, that overarching story. Let me go this way, I'm on the camera, I don't know, is it going to reverse? It's like my hands, everything I'm looking at right now with myself on screen is like mirror image of what it's a little disorienting, so I don't know sometimes always which way to point or gesture. I'll just do this all the time, just like sparkle hands, jazz hands all around. All right, so that book, that narrative that he added to those curious photographs that he found, was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and it made the New York Times bestseller list and then was adapted into a movie last year. And it has several others. There some sequels. There's Hollow City, which is the second book, and Library of Souls is the third book. So Ransom Riggs currently lives in LA, and he married the author, Tahira Mafi, and she's a fantastic author. If you haven't read any of her books, it's something really good to consider. Yeah, she's a fantastic author, and they had a baby, and and he said on his website, let me pull it up, this was really sweet. I thought this was, he says, I live in Los Angeles with my wife, the lovely and talented Tahira Mafi, who is also a writer, and if you haven't read her lovely and exciting Shatter Me books, you're missing out. And we type and travel and drink tea together, and it's really quite wonderful. So I thought that was incredibly, just a lovely way to describe your life. What lovely way could you describe your life in a few sentences like that? Where you live and what you do. I just love that, and how lovely it is. So think of kind of some lovely ways you can describe your life. All right, so I thought then we'd talk about, for the last few minutes here, we could talk about a little bit about the notion of being peculiar or weird or an outsider. And in this book, a lot of the peculiarities of the children, like they're visible, they're very obvious. They're not things that can be easily be hidden, but I started thinking, some of us can hide our quirks pretty easily, like most of our peculiarities are on the inside. And then some of us, we can't hide them, they're more obvious. And so being peculiar or weird, it's kind of interesting. And what it makes for is, I think sometimes you meet other people whose weirdness matches your weirdness, or their weirdness complements your weirdness. and it's really like meeting a kindred spirit, which can be really lovely. For some reason, this story popped into my head, and I hadn't thought about this in years. It's from when I was about your guys' age. I was in the 7th grade. And going back before that, when I was a little girl, like a toddler preschooler, my mom always did this thing. I have these 2 moles right here, and they're pretty small. They're not that big. Yeah, they're pretty small, just little brown moles right here, and I have 2 of them. And my mom would always give them a kiss each and tell me it meant I was twice as beautiful. And when you're a little girl, that just is very sweet. It wasn't, I don't know, it sounds like my mom would tell me I was twice as beautiful. It was just a way to take something unique about me and make me proud of it. And I just always loved that. It was a special thing between me and my mom. 2 smooches here. And then I'd say, "What do they mean, Mommy? What do they mean?" And she'd say, "They mean each mole means you're twice as beautiful." And that actually was really something sweet my mom did, because a lot of times moles are not considered that beautiful. But sorry, something just popped up on the screen here, and it almost said it was going to restart my computer, and I was like, no! All right, so my mom would always tell me that it meant, I was twice as beautiful, and she'd give me smooches, and it was this really special moment between my mom and me. Well, I remember being in 7th grade, about your guys' age, and standing in the hallway, and this friend of mine who, looking back, she probably wasn't a real friend, pointed at me and she went, "Ew, what's on your face?" And I was like, "Oh no," like I thought a bug was on my face. She had this like tone and facial expression, like looking at me with just sheer disgust, like just staring at me. And she touches my temple right here, and she's like, "There's this gunky, gross brown thing on your face, and oh, it's attached to your skin. It's disgusting. What is that?" And I was like, "Those are just my moles. Like, they're 2 little, one of them's basically a freckle." And it really made me sad, because it took this thing that was very special between me and my mom from when I was a little girl, and this outsider, this person who didn't know, looked at me just for this one little tiny thing with just pure disgust. And I started to get really sad about it, but actually I wasn't sad that long. I was more plucky about it, which I'm really proud. There have been moments, especially in junior high, where I let things get to me, and I let other people's opinions probably bother me too much when I was in junior high or middle school. We called it junior high where I'm from, but when I was in middle school. But this one, I kind of decided, no, they're not gross. They're not disgusting. They're special. They make me, and they make me unique. And so I really think my mom making that a special bond between us, it kind of protected me. It was water off a duck's back. And in my head, I kind of like laughed at the girl. Not laughed at her in a mean way, but I just kind of laughed it off. And I thought, you don't know what you're talking about. This is something that makes me special and unique, and kind of has this bond of magic between my mom and me. And I've always remembered that when somebody tried to tear me down over something they thought was disgusting on me, that I was protected because it was something that somebody else found beautiful about me. So I'm sure there are a lot of things about you guys that maybe sometimes unique things about you, and people might try to use your unique qualities, those qualities that make you so wonderful and such a gift in the world. Sometimes people might try to tear you down, but those are the qualities that people love about you, that the right people love about you, and that make you so beautiful and so valuable. And that's a great message kind of in this book, that our peculiarities are unique things about how we are, how we look, how we act, how we think. Those are our strengths if the right people see them for what they are, as beautiful aspects of us. All right, and so let's see, I think I have one more note here that I wanted to talk about. All right, yeah, that was the kind of the ending thing I wanted to talk about. How are you peculiar? In what ways could you be considered unique or kooky or weird or peculiar in all its wonderful varieties, all of those great ways to just be yourself? And you don't have to share this, but I would really like to kind of challenge you right now. And as you watch this video and as you go on, think about those things. Maybe it's a special thing that you shared with your parents. Maybe it's something about you that somebody else tried to make you feel insecure about, but your parent or your sibling or your grandparent or a friend had shown you how much they loved that aspect of you, and so nobody else could bring you down about it. Or maybe there's something that you're really proud of, but sometimes you feel shy about. Maybe sometimes you feel insecure about something, but it's actually a strength. or just something. It could be something you like about yourself, or something that makes you a little bit different, maybe. Sometimes something that makes you an outsider. And I promise you, those things that make you feel like an outsider, as you grow and learn and change, those are going to be the things that make you the most tough and strong and interesting. Oh, the best people in the world are interesting people. And so I know it's hard sometimes being in middle school. I remember. I won't tell you how long ago it was that I was in middle school. That's, you probably just like, oh, Miss Mandy is so old. So I won't tell you, but I will tell you that as you get older, those things about you that maybe you don't like when you're in middle school, those are going to be the things that you learn to appreciate and value, and that other people will see and value, because you're going to be so interesting. You guys are already so interesting and cool. I'm fascinated by everything you have to say and all of your responses. I'm a big fan of all you guys, if you can't tell, because I'm gushing. All right, so thank you for watching this Not So Live chat. I will see you all next time. Have a great couple of weeks before the newfangled in-person chat here at the library. I cannot wait to read and see and hear all of your responses to this book. Have a great evening. Bye.